Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the seventh Vaishnava devotees. And all glories to our revered speaker, His Grace SALIKA PRABHU. Devotees, we thank you for being here. Today we have His Grace SALIKA PRABHU, who is stepping in to do the wonderful favor of discussing Krishna Katha. So, SALIKA Prabhu, as always, we thank you very much for taking up this service to speak Krishna Katha. So we will put the verse on the screen and then we'll take it over from you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Naraichavam Naruttamam Devim Sarasvati Vyasam Tatujayam Mudiraye Nasta Apraisu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamam Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of God in Narayan. Unto Narayan, Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam. By regular attendance in classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. We are reading from 3rd canto, chapter 3, We'll be discussing text number 4 and 5. So I'll read the Sanskrit text. Kako mino vidara sodanitvam swayam vare najitim uvaha tadbhag namanam apikrit yato ogyan jagne kshata satsra britaswa sastrae kakut minu vidanaso damitva swayam vare najitim uvaha tadbhag namanam apikrit yato ogyan Jagne Shata Sastra Brita Swasastrae. Translation. By subduing 7 bulls, whose noses were not pierced, the Lord achieved the hand of Princess Nagnejit in the open competition to select a bridegroom. Although the Lord was victorious, his competitors asked the hand of the princess, and thus there was a fight. Well equipped with weapons, the Lord killed or wounded all of them, but he himself was not hurt. Text number 5. Priyam Prabhu Gramya Iva Priyaya Vidit Sut Asha Dutarum Yada Ate Bhadri Adravatam Sagano Rusandaya Kridam Rigonam Ayam Vadunaham Priyam Prabhu Gramya Iva Apriyaya Vidsu Alshad Utarum Yad Artehe Vajre Adravatam Sagano Rusanda Kridam Rigonam Ayam Vadunam Priyam Prabhu Gramya Iva Priyaya Viditsu Asha Dutarum Yad Atehe Vajre Adravatam Sanano Saanda Vidam Rigonunam Ayam Vadunam. Word for word translation. Priyam of the dear wife, Prabhu, the Lord. Gramya, ordinary living being. Eva, in the manner of. Priya, just to please. Viditsu, wishing. Harshat, brought about. Dutarum, the Parijata flower tree. Yat, or wish. Heart, in the matter of Vajri, Indra, the king of heaven. Adravatam went forward to fight with him. Sagana, with full strength. Rusa, in anger. Andaha, blind. Krida, Mrigaha, impecced. Nonaham, of course, I am this. Padunam, of the wives. Translation and purpose by His Divine Grace, by Charanaravinda. This is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Okay, let's take the word for word. Let's take the word for word. Okay, let's go to translation. Sorry. Just go to his translation so that will take time, keep the time for speaking. Just to please his dear wife, the Lord brought back the Parijata tree from heaven. just as an ordinary husband will do. But Indra, the king of heaven, induced by his wives, henpecked as he was, ran after the Lord with full force to fight him. The Lord once went to the heavenly planet to present an hearing to a deity, the mother of the demigods, and his wife Satyabhama also went with him. There is a special flowering tree called the Parijata, which grows only in the heavenly planet, and Satyabhama wanted this tree just to place his wife. Like an ordinary husband, the Lord brought back the tree. And this enraged Vajra, or the controller of the thunderbolt, Indra's wives inspired him to run after the Lord to fight. And Indra, because he was henpecked husband, and also a fool listening to them and dared to fight with Krishna. He was a fool on this occasion because he forgot everything belongs to the Lord. There was no fault on the part of the Lord, even though he took away the tree from the heavenly kingdom. But because Indra was henpecked, dominated by his beautiful wives like Sashi, he became a fool, just as all persons who are dominated by their wives are generally foolish. Indra thought that Krishna was henpecked husband, who only by the will of his wife, Satyabhama, took away the property of heaven. And therefore he thought that Krishna could be punished. He forgot that the Lord is the proprietor of everything and cannot be henpecked. The Lord is fully independent, and by his will only, he can have hundreds and thousands of wives like Satyabhama. He was not therefore attached to Satyabhama because she was a beautiful wife, but he was pleased with her devotional service, and thus wanted to reciprocate the unalloyed devotion of his devotee. Omagyanam timirandasya gyanam gyanam shalakaya shakshumilitam jena tasmai shri gurave namah Shri Chaitanya Manuvishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Pada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganam Lagnatam Pitam Tam Saajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Parijan Saitam Krishna Putavadevam Shri Radha Krishna Padasahagana Lalita Sri Vishikamcha He Krishna Karuna Shindu Dina Bandhu Jagatpati Gopisha Gopi Kakanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangira Devindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Shitadevi Pranamami Haripi Mokankaroti Vachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Kripatam Bande Shri Guru Dinatarina Vanchakarpata Rubhyascha Kripa Sundubhyasivascha Patitanam Pavashnevyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. By subduing 7 bulls whose noses were not pierced, the Lord achieved the hand of Princess Nitchit. In the open competition to select a bridegroom, although the Lord was victorious, his competitors asked the Lord the hand of the princess, and thus there was a fight while equipped with weapons. The Lord killed or wounded all of them, but he himself was not hurt. Just to please his dear wife, the Lord brought back the Parijata tree from heaven, just as an ordinary husband will do. But Indra, the king of heaven, induced by his wife, henpecked as he was, ran after the Lord with full force to fight him. Hare Krishna. So before trying to spread the small Bhagavatam, once again we offer respectful to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who by his mercy everything becomes possible. We offer our respectful obeisances to the Vaishnava Acharyas, who are in the line of the disciplic succession. Respectful obeisances unto the previous Acharyas, who by their mercy were able to read and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. For respectful obeisances unto all of the devotees who are gathered on this platform, listening to these wonderful narrations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I will pray that by their mercy, we might be able to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this verse we're reading today is the continuation of their reading from the third canto, chapter 3 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is describing the pastimes of the Lord, as narrated by Dhruva, as narrated by Vidura, The Supreme Personality of God, Krishna, as revealed by all revealed scriptures, is the Supreme Personality of God. As Lord Brahma described him, Ishwara Paraman Krishna, Satchid Ananda Prigraha, Anadi Adi Govindam Sarva Karanam. That Krishna is the original source of all. Is the controller of all controller, who himself has no control. But when the Lord descends to this material environment, his uncommon activities become diluted to the living entities, who are his part and parcel. And so therefore they misunderstand his uncommon activities to be like that of an ordinary living entity. In the Katha Upanishad 2.13, the famous verse, Nityo Nityanam Shaitanas Shaitananam, Eko Yo Bahunam Vidati Kaman. This verse from the Katha Upanishad emphasizes the fact that the Supreme Personality of God, like the living entities, is an individual personality. It's eternal. And the living entities also are eternal. And just like particle of gold is gold, the living entities also are gold. They are souls. Same quality with Krishna. And he himself further explained in the Bhagavad Gita 2.20 that Na anyate anyamane sarire, that the living entity also is nitya, is eternal. It's never dead when the body dies. In the Bhagavad Gita 7.4 and 5, Krishna describes his energies, and he describes the living entity as a superior energy. So it is natural for one who is under the influence of the three modes of material nature to think like Indra think. In the first verse we are reading today, text number 4, the Krishna's activities of competing for the hands of Princess Najit looks like that of a common person. In the ancient times, there are different, it is said there are about 7 different ways of marriage, according to the Vedic tradition. And in this particular case, the king, whose daughter is glorified to be very special, Princess Najit, to prove his worthiness, he set a standard for one who is going to marry his daughter. And the Lord, in his Leela as Krishna, was also invited. And Krishna went there, just like any other kings. So naturally, for one who is not a devotee, the activities of the Lord looks like that of an ordinary person because it's externally the same. Unless one is blessed with the understanding by the costless mercy of the association of pure devotees, the activities of Krishna cannot be understood. So these activities, these pastimes that is being narrated here in the 2 verses that we're reading, and Lord Krishna going to the heavenly kingdom, taking along his wife Satyabhama, and Satyabhama desiring to have the Parijata flower. There is a glory of this Parijata flower described in the scriptures. It's like Kalpa Vriksha, it's wish fulfilling. It provides whatever is desired. So it's naturally attractive. But the significant here is that Satyabhama, who is the wife of the Lord, wants that flower, and the Lord, to satisfy his wife, Satyabhama, took that tree of Parijata and brought it to his abode. And that agitated the mind of Indra. Although Indra is a devotee of the Lord, but the Lord, when he enacts his pastimes, wants to teach a specific lessons. When the Lord enacted his pastimes, as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, Paritayana Swaduna Nashaya Duksita, Damasam Stapanata Yam Sambhavami Juge Juge, to give pleasure to devotees, to annihilate the miscreants, and as well as to reestablish religious principles, the Lord enacted pastimes. So in this particular pastimes, one can ask, so what is different? Why is Indra called henpecked husband? Because practically, the Lord acted on the desire of Satyabhama. And Indra is acting on the desire or the instigation of his wives, headed by Sashi, Mother Sashi. So here, Indra is called as henpecked husband, who just followed the dictates of his wife. And Lord Krishna is glorified. Why is the difference? What is the significance? What is to be learned in these pastimes of the Lord? In the both pastimes that is shared in these 2 verses, the unique significant lesson to be learned is that from the highest living entity, Lord Brahma, to the lowest, no matter what level of their advancement, can never be equated with the personality of the Supreme Personality of God. Indra is a part and Krishna is all. In the Bhagavad Gita 7:26, Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, Vidaham samati tani Vatamani chajuna Bhavishyani cha bhutani Mamtu vedana kaschanam. Krishna is telling Arjuna, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. Not only that, Krishna says, I also know all living entities, but me, no one knows. No one knows Krishna. And that is the lesson that is being taught in these two pastimes. That Krishna activities, even though it looks like that of an ordinary living entity, cannot be compared to be on the same platform. Why? Because Krishna is the origin of all origin. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Jammadi Asya Yata, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who imparted knowledge into the heart of Brahmaji, who is the original living entity, is offered respectful obeisances because he's the origin. And in many verses in the scriptures, the Lord is established. So the Lord activities cannot be in any way be compared to that of the living entity or any demigod, because the difference is that Krishna is the source of all causes. He's the cause of all causes, the source of everything. Everything is emanating from him. So for him, his activities, Krishna is called Swarat, is completely independent, is free to act. Is not under the influence of any rule or regulations. There is no law that is binding him. Just like he told Arjuna, I know everything, both in the past, presently, and even in the future, what is going to happen, I know. Because why? I'm the source of everything. Everything is emanating from me. And that is where Indra could not understand. Indra was acting on the basis of the influence or the instigation of his wife. But the Lord was reciprocating the devotion of his devotee. And because Krishna owns everything, everything belongs to Krishna, it cannot be nicknamed MPEG, because whatever the Lord does is completely free to do anything and everything, because that is who he is. That is the supreme nature of the Supreme Personality of God. So in all of the revealed scriptures, the Supreme Lord is completely independent. Why is he independent? Because it's never subjected to the illusion of the influence of the three modes of material nature. Krishna is never deluded. He knows what is happened in the past, what is happening, and what will happen in the future. Krishna knows everything. Unlike the living entities. The living entities are conditioned because they do not know. Even the present is not fully captured by one who is a Jiva Atma or conditioned living entities, irrespective of their position, whether they are occupying the position of Brahma or Indra or any living entity within the creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So because the Lord is completely free from delusion, the Lord is completely free to act in any capacity. So its activities are not instigated by any conditional circumstances. Because it's completely free. Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, and text number 14, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, Namam karmani limpanti, name karma fales priha, iti mam yo bijanati, karma mi nasa bandai badyate. That there is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. That is the position of Krishna. Krishna is not affected by anything because it's completely independent. Thank you. So he said, I do not aspire for the fruit of any result. It's not designed because what? Krishna is self-satisfied. He said, one who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive actions of work. And this is the glory of a pure devotee of the Lord. The glory of the pure devotee of the Lord is that they are not bounded by the influence of the three modes of material nature. Namam, karmani, limpanti. There is no work. There is no work that affects me. I'm completely free because why? The Lord has no desire to fulfill. He's self-satisfied. Allah Prabhupada said in the purport, if the Lord so desire, he can marry millions and billions of the Lord can marry unlimited wives. But personalities like Indra, as Lord Krishna himself said, Brahmana Bhuvana Aloka Bhupuna Avati no Juna, in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8. From the highest living entity to the lowest, they are all conditioned in some way or the other. Because they are conditioned, they have to answer to the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Satyabhama requesting Lord Krishna in this Leela, it is interesting also to understand these pastimes as being narrated by Uddhava is supposed to completely free the living entity. But interesting is that even though we hear these stories again and again, we cannot see Krishna. We cannot handshake Krishna. We cannot dance with Krishna. Because why? Although we seemingly are hearing, but because we are not purified, we cannot release. The transcendental nature of hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the third count, in the fourth canto of the, yes, in the same third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in text number 32, the last verse, Lord Kapila Dev, he told his divine mother, Mother Devauti, that anyone who wants meditate upon me with faith and affection, who hears and chants about me, surely he goes back home, back to God once. And there is a word there, machita. Machita, the same word Krishna used in the Bhagavad Gita, machita, in the Satosloki verse of the Bhagavad Gita. So in this verse, Krishna is saying, one who once meditates, and in the translation, Prabhupada translate that word, machita, as his mind fixed upon me. The same word is used in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, text number 9. Machita. Krishna is telling Arjuna that those who fix their mind, the devotees of the Lord, is describing the nature of the pure devotees in chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita, text number 9, Chateau Sloki verse. Mat chita mat gata pranam bundiya stas parasparam. And here Prabhupada says, their mind fully engaged in me. Prabhupada translated the word mat chita. So when this lila of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is narrated, when the Lord activities, when his pastimes, in that verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, it is said, if one hears just once, if just once one is able to hear this lila of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the reward is that it goes back to the Supreme abode of the Supreme Lord, to look at Vrindavan. So this Krishna consciousness movement, as given by Srila Prabhupada, is the express gateway back home, back to Godhead. And as we hear these leelas of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is said that one who knows the purpose behind an activities and engagement automatically derives the benefit of such an engagement. Although we chant the names of the Lord for several years, because there is no deep understanding, the effect is not much. So here, whoever is sharing these pastimes and is being glorified as a purificatory for one who hears this narration. So the activities of the Lord, as depicted here in this verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and in the purport to text number 5, Prabhupada says there was no fault on the part of the Lord. Even though he took away the trees from the heavenly kingdom, he acted just like an ordinary person. Sometimes Krishna is glorified as a thief, a butter thief. Not even something very wonderful, a butter thief. But the acharyas have explained that the activity of Lord cannot be faulted because everything belongs to Krishna. Krishna is energetic. And the living entities are energetic. So they derive their energy from the supreme energy, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining to us in the purport that these activities of the Lord cannot be faulted. It cannot be compared to the activities of Indra, who is impelled, instigated by the desire of his wife, Sachi-Dev. Because everything is owned and controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So therefore, whatever he does is completely free as himself, as placed, and as explained in the various texts of the scriptures by the different personality. So Prabhupada explained that Indra became a fool just as all persons who are dominated by their wives are generally foolish. And Indra, though, thought that Krishna was also an impaired husband who only by the will of his wife, Satyabhama, took away the property of the heaven. So Indra is thinking, is seeing. Why? Because he is subjected to the delusion of the three modes of material nature. And no one can be free from this illusion except one who is blessed, one who is benedicted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As Krishna himself has said in the Bhagavad Gita, that Devi Yesa Guna Mayi, Mama Maya Durate, Mam Eva Ye Prapadiente, Mayam Itam Tarantite, that the divine energy consisting of the three modes of material nature, which is the ultimate controller of all living entities in the material world, from the highest planet to the lowest, is very difficult to overcome. And unless one surrenders to him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this influence of the tumors of materialism cannot be overcome. So therefore, Lord Krishna says in the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharma Parityajam, Mamikam Saranam Vraj, Amcham Sarva Pabhu, Moksha Misami, Masusha, just surrender. Why? Because I'm the Supreme Personality of God. And one who surrenders unto him becomes free. And he becomes completely independent, like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 14:14, that both him and his pure devotees are free to act because they have no desire, they aspire for no results. And the same thing is what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said when he said, Krishna Bhakta Nishkamya, Atayeva Santa, Bhakti Mukti Siddhikami, Sakale Asanta, because the living entity has something to achieve. He has a desire to achieve something. That desire to achieve something is what causes his bondage. But the Lord, because his Swaraj is completely independent and is self-satisfied, he has nothing to desire for us. He doesn't desire for nothing. So therefore, he is not bounded. Namam Karmani Limpanti. He has no, he's not bounded by anything. He is completely free. He acts from his own free will. That is the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is the difference between the Lord and his devotees. The Lord and his devotees are differentiated, or the Lord and the living entities are differentiated based on the fact that the living entities are dependent and the Lord is independent. The living entity is part and Krishna is whole. So therefore, he is completely free to act. So as we read in these past times of the Lord, in Vrindavan, the Lord is teaching that ultimately the living entity should remember that the Lord is the proprietor of everything. He is completely independent. And by his will only, anything and everything can be achieved. So therefore, his position cannot be compared to that of Indra or any living entity, even the Brahman. Because the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna, is the original cause of all causes. Everything is dependent on him. He has no dependence on nothing. But he is dependent on the love of his devotees. And this is what Prabhupada concludes the purpose. Because the Lord was not attached to Satyabhama. The Lord was only attracted to the devotion of Satyabhama, who was pleased with her devotional service. And therefore, the Lord, he reciprocates the unalloyed devotion of his devotee. This reciprocation of the Lord is the ultimate mellow of bhakti, of devotion as well. The Lord is completely independent. He's not controlled by material nature. Material nature depends on him. And when one understands this fact about the Supreme Personality of God, then he can surrender to the Supreme Personality of God. But if the reality thinks that he is free to act because he sees the activities of the Lord, then he can act in an equal way. The living entity being energy and the Lord being the energetic cannot be compared to be the same. And this fact is established by all revealed scripture. As quoted in the first canto, in the first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, everything is emanating from the Supreme Personality of God. So therefore, one who knows this fact, one who knows this truth about the Supreme Personality of God, he simply surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of God. And when he surrenders, he attains ultimate peace. That is the purpose of this wonderful narration, pastimes of the Supreme Personality of God. Although the Lord was fighting to protect his wife and protect his bounty or winning of the wife he acquired, Nagnajit, and pleasing Satyabhama, the Lord activities are completely free and cannot be compared to that of Indra, because the symptom is that the reality is that the Supreme Personality of God is independent and Indra is dependent. That is the message of this verse. Thank you very much for listening. I will stop here and entertain questions, comments from devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. It's gracious SALIKA Prabhu for stepping in and speaking so wonderfully. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, realizations you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to speak. Sri Prabhupada explained in the pamphlet that Indra, in this particular pastime, was a fool because he forgot about the position of Krishna. My question is, what does one who, even though has not forgotten about the position of Krishna, but does not really care to take proper care of Krishna and Krishna's properties, can such individuals be considered fools as well?
Let me try to understand your question so that I don't misunderstand. Please, could you repeat the question once again?
I was saying that maybe I better put the verse on the screen.
I had the beginning of your question. Prabhupada describing Indra as being foolish.
So
I understand that part. The last part of the question.
So because Indra was a handpicked husband and also a fool. Listen to them and dared to fight with Krishna. He was a fool on this occasion. He was a fool on this occasion because he forgot that everything belongs to the Lord.
Exactly.
And I am in this light trying to find out if someone, even though does not forget that everything belongs to the Lord, everything belongs to Krishna, one remembers that, one knows that. Yet, this individual does not care about taking proper care of Krishna's property or Krishna himself as a deity. Krishna appearing as a deity on the altar is standing there. And this individual does not care to take proper care of Krishna. Krishna's property, like the temple, which is the property of Krishna, does not care. He knows that this is Krishna's temple. This is Krishna standing on the altar. Couldn't such a person be considered a fool as well?
Thank you very much. I think I understand your question. I wanted to be sure I understand the question. What your question is like a kind of an oxymoron, because it is not possible for someone to know Krishna, to understand the position of Krishna, and then be careless about the service of Krishna. The scriptures does not attune to that kind of reality. It is not possible because in one of the beautiful verses of the in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, Krishna says, Mahatmas tu mam parta, devim prakritim ashrita, bhajanti ananta ananya manaso gyatva bhuta dim avyayam. O son of Partha, those who are not deluded, the great soul, are under the protection of the supreme divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the supreme personality of Godhead. That is the nature of the pure devotee. These are the people who know. The Mahatmas, they know. And because they know, the only thing they do is they serve the Krishna. The same thing he says. Brahma Bhuta Pranas, Prasanatma, Nasu Shati Nakam Samasaveshu Bhukteshu, Mabhaktim Babate Param. The same thing is said. The moment they become transcendental, they come to that transcendental position. The only thing is they do is bhakti. Bahunam Jamana Mante, Genava Man Prapadi Ante, Vasudeva Savamiti, Sama Atma, Sudruhalaba. They are very rare, these kind of persons. Those who have come to know Krishna, it is not possible. So when we say somebody knows, somebody has had. And that is why Prabhupada distinguished, it clearly defined for our understanding the difference between Gyan, Agyan, knowledge, ignorance, and realized knowledge. So somebody can hear something. Somebody can continue to hear something. And it's definitely hearing. It's not like it's not hearing. It's not dead and dumb. If you ask him, sometimes he can even repeat what he has heard. But it may not be realized. And that is why, interestingly, Krishna consciousness begins with the Yinos Yata de Hey, Umaram Yavunam Jara, Tata Dentraprat Dira. One has to become a Dira. That is the beginning of Krishna consciousness. When one realizes, I'm Brahmasmi, I'm not this body, I'm this spirit, I'm spirit soul. And what is the spirit soul? Part and parcel of Krishna. That is the beginning of knowledge. So someone cannot be said to have known, although he may have heard. It may have even sometimes read. And that is why it is said that no one can become a devotee of the Lord who has not, by the grace of the Lord and his devotees, become realized by the costless mercy of the association of pure devotees. So the fact that it is very common, we see this in the Western world, and people sometimes they claim, oh, this person has been in the Hare Krishna movement, or he has been in any part of devotion for several years. He has been there for 20 years. He worships the deities. He chants Hare Krishna every morning. He wakes up for Mangalati. But then he still behaves somehow unimaginable. Yeah. 3 things are considered to be the cause of such a situation. One is that the person is still under the strong influence of the 3 modes of materiality due to past activities. He is getting association, but he has not fully taken shelter. So therefore, is still subjected to the influence of the three modes of material nature. The second thing is that such a person, due to his previous karma, although he has sincerely made endeavor to actually come to the position of realization, but because of his past misdeeds, the influence of previous karma affects him. And that's why Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he explains that the ultimate engagement of bhakti, which is the chanting of the holy name, can be in offensive chanting. It can be clearing stage of chanting, and it can be pure chanting. So bhakti is not necessarily activity. Even though bhakti, the whole process of bhakti is an engagement, an activity, but it's not just about the activity, but about the consciousness behind the activity. And that is why Krishna told Arjuna, Pacham Puncham Falam Toyam, you may bhaktiya prayashati. So if one with devotion, and that is why in the course of lecture also we reference that word, machita. If one fixes his mind on him, Krishna, even when he is not elevated, when he is not pure, Krishna will protect him from making unnecessary offenses against the Lord, his devotees, or his deities for. So the assumption that somebody knows, then he is being offensive towards the deities is kind of an assumption because they do not rhyme, does not tally with the scripture. A person who is realized, one who knows, who actually knows, according to Krishna and the acharyas, can never engage in offensive activities. He may have had, but it's not yet realized. And because it's not realized, it's not pure. So therefore, he acts under the influence of the three modes of material nature. Devotional service also could be in ignorance. It is possible. Devotional service could be in the mode of passion. And devotional service can be in goodness. And that does not make it even pure devotion. And most of the times, we see someone acting on the platform of devotional service in goodness, and we consider him to be a pure devotee. He's not. The fact that somebody is diligently following the regulative principles, is chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra very nicely, he follows all the regulative principles, he wakes up Manangalati, not necessarily depicts that he's already a pure devotee. Somebody could be engaging in devotional service in goodness. So these are different explanations given by our previous acharya that devotional service cannot be calculated based on assumptions. It is characterized by the character of the person that is engaged in that process. And it cannot be hidden. It's self-effulgent. Bhakti is self-effulgent. If you cover it with all of the possible covering of this world, it will shine because nothing can cover bhakti. It's completely effulgent, like the effulgence of the Lord himself. Bhakti is like that. It can never be covered. Nothing can cover it. So when one acts in a particular way, and we wonder, oh, this person, supposedly he knows, but he doesn't know. That is the reality. He has heard, he has read, but he doesn't know. And then, so therefore, the word know can be defined differently according to the person who speaks about knowledge. I hope that answers the question.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Since my question is self-contradictory, then that also means that if someone claims to be Krishna conscious and does not care about Krishna, and Krishna's properties and Krishna's devotees, then it means that individual has not really become Krishna conscious. He does not understand Krishna. He does not truly care about Krishna.
Interestingly, one who actually knows says he doesn't know. So the moment someone even says that I know Krishna, I'm Krishna conscious, automatically you know that person is actually the fool number one, like Indra, as explained by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. The moment he says I know I'm a Krishna conscious person, it means that actually he's a fool number one.
Yes, I had said that. Those who know Krishna do not claim that they know him. But because they know him, their behavior tells those who read the scriptures to understand who Krishna is and who his devotees are. They will understand that this person is Krishna conscious. And one of such symptoms is that such persons, if I'm not mistaken, I would like to share this on the screen, something Srila Prabhupada said, which I find it very applicable to my question. This is a letter Srila Prabhupada wrote to Narayan Maharaj, June 14th, 1967, very, very early stages of ISKCON. So Srila Prabhupada wrote to His Holiness Narayan Maharaj, and he listed the name of trustees to his movement. And then I wouldn't like to, but Srila Prabhupada is saying, I thank you very much for your letter dated June 7th, 1967, along with the letter of Shriman Ram.
Right.
While replying you with this letter, I'm feeling well. So Srila Prabhupada was not feeling well. He says, my disciples here are God sent. They are all more than my father and mother. And they are taking so much care for me that I shall never be able to repay the debts. I hope to survive by the prayers of the boys. Otherwise, I would have died on the day when the stroke was so severe. All the boys in 3 branches in New York, San Francisco, and Montreal prayed for me to Sri Krishna and chanted the whole night. And with vow, they fasted. And I'm sure only for their prayer, I am on the path of recovery. I cannot express my gratitude for their sincere love for me, and I can only pray that Sri Krishna may bless them with advanced Krishna consciousness. In the hospital, they spent money like anything, up to the extent of 600 to 700 rupees daily. So there is no depth of care and treatment. But still, I think Ayurvedic treatment is better for this kind of disease. So I put this up for us to read and understand how Srila Prabhupada felt about his disciples, that they are God sent. And Srila Prabhupada is even likening his survival to the prayers of his devotees.
Mm-hmm.
So if we understand this to be the value of devotees, then how can someone calling himself a Krishna conscious leader would not care for Krishna's devotees? So to me, such people are saying or claiming that they represent Krishna, but actually they are not representing Krishna.
Thank you very much. That's the real fact. it is not surprising in one of the purport to this text of chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada even mentioned clearly that in this age, some people will even join the spiritual movement. They will rise to the position of a sannyasi. But they're demons, these guys. And they will become sannyasis. And you know what it takes to become initiated as a sannyasi in the ISKCON movement. And not just in the ISKCON movement, but in all religious institutions. They will rise to the top. His Grace Sriman Varacharya Prabhu shared something with me this morning. And I won't mention name. And I was reading how one powerful GOC, GOC means General Overseer of a big global Christian tradition, is saying something, is teaching something that is completely negates the verdict of the scripture. And one of his followers, who is his representative, so to speak, who is pastor under him, was refuting that. And he was explaining that people should be wary of the so-called overseers. So when I was responding to Sriman Acharya Prabhu and I was explaining, I said, this is interesting. But how many of these kind of overseers are there also in our ISKCON movement that we have to be careful of? Because, like Prabhupada said in one of the interviews, I was reading earlier today, in one interview of Prabhupada, a morning walk, I think it's a morning walk conversation, and Prabhupada was talking about one of the disciples was asking him that, what about those who it is said that Arainam Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nastiva Nastiva Nastigatia Yata, we say that the only name is the deliverer in the age of Kali. And sometimes we also have had that conversation on this platform several times, that some people would think that if someone is not in the Hare Krishna movement, they can't go back to God. So in that conversation, the disciple was asking Srila Prabhupada, so what if some people, they are not ready to, maybe they are Muslims or Christians, they will never chant Hare Krishna. And even when you tell them chant Hare Krishna, they will not chant. So does it mean that all of them are doomed? And Prabhupada said, no. One does not have to be in ISKCON or chant Hare Krishna to go back to God. One has to chant the only name of the Lord, but only one condition is universal. And that universal principle is that one must chant the name of the Lord offenselessly. So if someone chants the name of the Lord in any other name of the Lord, but offenselessly, then that person is qualified to go back to God. The holy name will act. So in our Krishna consciousness movement, in this age of Kali especially, it is understood that there are many that will come in disguise. And that is also the beauty of Krishna consciousness. An intelligent person is not disturbed by all of this because he understands why. He understands the fact that these are the flavors that makes Krishna consciousness sweet. Because, like they say, there is no glorification. Okay, it was on the Saturday, I was giving a speech at the International Day of Peace. And I was explaining some concept I was sharing with the audience that I was speaking to, that what is the meaning, what is the value of light when there is no darkness? Light becomes glorified only because of darkness. So if there was no darkness, nobody will have any reverence, any special attraction to the light. The light becomes a very appreciative substance because there was darkness. So if one does not experience or see darkness, light becomes a normal thing. It doesn't have any unique significance. So in the same way, in our religious or organizational spiritual environment, if there was no people like such persons who are hypocrites or pretenders, then we will not be able to see the glory of those who are pure devotees. When we're hearing these leelas of Krishna, especially the leelas in Vrindavan and many other places, we see how Krishna kills so many demons. And if there were no demons for Krishna to kill, how will we enact that glorification pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So those elements, those individuals, even in our own movement, who are supposedly not being Krishna conscious, are opportunities for us to see the glory of Krishna. So that is why pure devotees of the Lord, they don't see anything negative. Although these persons, they acted in such a way that is not Krishna conscious, but those who are intelligent, those who are devotees, they understand, oh, Krishna is bringing this person so that I can appreciate the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Because if there are no such a person, how will we appreciate those who are actually becoming pure devotees? So those are flavors that that brings about the glorification of bhakti in our times.
Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji. It's very interesting how it is said in the scriptures, particularly the Old Testament of the Holy Bible, Ecclesiastes. He's called Ecclesiastes the preacher. He says that anytime someone says that there is something new, you should understand that that individual is a fool. That there is nothing new under the sun, which is true in the sense that Indra started trying to fight Krishna because of the instigations of his wives. And Srila Prabhupada states there are many such examples in this world where generally, Srila Prabhupada states in the paper, generally, when men become handpicked to their wives, they become fools. And so there are many people also who may not become handpicked by their wives, but they become handpicked by someone who is able to feed their bellies.
Allurement.
And so it is said that one who can control one's belly also controls his tongue.
Exactly.
And so there are people who become allured by different personal things they're looking for from an individual. And therefore, when they see the individual do something bad, they don't even say a word.
Worshippers.
Yeah. So if we find such people, what do we do? Especially if such people are in a position of management, they're in a position of leadership. It's not just says with this Hare Krishna movement, it's everywhere. Yeah. But people in general, those who come to understand that people living on the instigations of people's ambitious goals that are contradictory to Krishna's. And they are trying to serve Krishna, they're trying to serve truth, but they see falsehood. What should be the attitude? What should be the mood of such people? Trying to live the truth or bring about the truth.
Thank you, Prabhuji. The point where you started the question from, what should be one's mood towards such a person? It depends. in this devotional setting, to be specific, if you see any devotional service, Srila Rupa Goswami has given us a guide. If such a person is a junior, although is in management, one can try to give some advice to such a person. But even that, only if that person is favorable. Because sometimes even a junior person cannot be advised if he is unfavorable. So if the person is junior and is favorable, then we can try to advise. If the person is a contemporary and is friendly, one may try to speak in a friendly tone to make him realize or make her realize the danger and the steps that he or she takes. But if the person is senior, it is Srila Rupa Goswami's guide is that one should find somebody who can speak to such a person, who is on the same platform with that person, and speak to that person to speak to that person. And if any of this situation is not available for one to be able to share in that capacity, in that way, then the best way to approach such a person is to pray, follow the mood of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj's father was so inimical. Not only that he's inimical to Prahlad, but he's inimical to the Lord of Prahlad. And so Prahlad Maharaj prayed for the Lord to have mercy on him. Another example is that of Ravana. What is his brother's name?
Kumbhakarna?
No, not Kumbhakarna. His name was coming to my head now. Just forget. Who came to who later? Vibhishana. Vibhishana, yeah. Vibhishana. So he also prayed to Lord Ramachandra on behalf of Ravana. So that is what one should do. Because in most cases, especially when the person is senior from material calculation, because sometimes also seniority is based on our calculation of who comes to join the movement first. But in reality, spiritually, seniority is not actually based on how who first come first initiated. It is based on realization. But generally, we calculate based on who joined the movement first. So the best offering one can give to a person in such a condition is to pray for them. Most especially when they are behaving in such a manner that is obviously opposite of what Krishna consciousness is supposed to be, and the materially is externally superior. And someone, I was having a conversation with one senior devotee some years back. And that was when the property of Gurudev was being sold in Lagos. And I was so furious. So one of the persons that were involved in this act is my senior in devotional service. I met him in devotional service. And I was telling him, you know, Prabhu, this is not right. And he told me, he said, you're a fool, number one. He said, Salika, when you have people beyond the circle of your preference or influence, you don't try to open your mouth. He said, you are talking about the activities of somebody who is a senior person to you. Say, who are you to correct a senior person? I said, but the senior person is wrong. And you know it, I know it, that the senior person is wrong. He said, yes, the person is wrong. But the reality is that you don't have what it takes to be able to correct such a person. I said, so what should I do? Should I just keep silent? I said, wouldn't that be also an hypocrisy from my end? That I'm saying something I cannot speak. He said, as long as this circumstances beyond the circle of your influence, you should keep silent. You should not say anything. And this is a senior person, very senior person in the moment. So the reality is that sometimes the best, easiest way is just to pray to the Lord to help such persons who are in such a situation, most especially when they are senior.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Talking about prayer, dear devotees, those who are here with us, and those who may be listening to this live on YouTube, or those who may be listening to this later on YouTube. We had shared the speaker for today, the person to speak this Krishna Katha. And this individual was none other than His Grace Mahatma Prabhu, our own beloved uncle and great uncle to some of us here. And then we learned that he was not feeling well physically. And he was actually in the hospital. So there was we were kind of alarmed. We were very much worried, disturbed, because His Grace Mahatma Prabhu is being one of the pillars of Srila Prabhupada's movement. He joined the movement at a very young age. He joined when the movement was like an infant. He joined in 69, very early. And he's been serving and serving tirelessly till today and tomorrow and ever. So when we got to know that he was not feeling well physically, we were very much worried. But we resorted to praying to Sri Guru and Krishna. And there was the request that every devotee all over the world should pray to their lordships for his safe recovery and quick recovery. And it seems that the Supreme Lord is listening to the prayers of the devotees all over the world. And so Prabhuji is feeling much better since yesterday and today. And we still continue to urge devotees to please pray to their lordships for the speedy recovery of His Grace Mahatma Prabhu. So, saying this, I would like to read something Srila Prabhupada wrote to one of his disciples in the very, very early stages of Krishna consciousness. So this is a letter Srila Prabhupada wrote to Brahmananda. This is also June 1467, so very early. This was the same time when Srila Prabhupada himself was not feeling very well. So Srila Prabhupada writes, "My dear Brahmananda, please accept my blessings. I am in due receipt of your letter dated June 10th, 1967. Yes, it is due to your prayers that at this time my life has been saved." So Mahatma Prabhu may likely speak like this. So this also tells that as insignificant as we may find ourselves to be, Lord Krishna still listens to our prayers. And therefore we should pray to their lordships for the health and the well-being of devotees, particularly to our mentors, our spiritual masters. Srila Prabhupada continues, "Your appreciation of the movement is very keen and interesting. Actually, I was also attracted by my Guru Maharaj when he convinced me that God lives and we can live with him. I find the same conviction in you, and it has given me so great pleasure. Yes, it is the greatest discovery. Human society, under the spell of illusion, is doing things, each on its own responsibility, and they are becoming entangled in material existence. This is the greatest blunder in human society. They have not only forgotten God, but they've declared openly that God is dead. This declaration of the foolish human society is the greatest blunder in life. I therefore appreciate your conviction, and I'm still more glad that you are determined to propagate this message to the world at large. I'm sure you can do this because all of you are determined to propagate this message to the world at large. I am sure you can do this because all of you who have come to me as sincere souls, and you have understood the inner force of Krishna consciousness. Please try to propagate this new movement combinedly." And even though this letter from Srila Prabhupada to one of his dearest disciples, Brahmananda Prabhu, is also very much well applicable to His Grace Mahatma Prabhu. So we humbly urge all devotees, those who are here, those who may be watching this, to pray to their lordships, to Shri Krishna and the Parampara, to protect our senior devotees, our mentors, our spiritual masters, devotee in general, the world in general, but particularly our mentors who are helping train us how to walk in the presence of Krishna consciousness. So with this, I will stop here, and Salika Prabhu, you may continue with your speaking. I'm sorry I've taken so much of your time, but I am quite emotional when I hear our mentors, our spiritual leaders go through situations like that. So my apologies for taking so much of your valuable
You've not taken
Hare Krishna.
I don't think you have taken any time. You have done what is supposed to be done, and I appreciate. I also was about calling for us to, if there's no any more questions, I think we should call it a day here. So your call for prayers at this junction is appropriate, very much appropriate, which is what I will also want to do as a rounding up of the conversation or discussions today on this test. So thank you very much for sharing those Prabhupada's emotional or exemplary words that serves as guidance for us all. So, if there are no any other questions or comments, I think we can call it a day. Actually, I was supposed to join another call by this hour. So,
well, thank you so much, SALIKA Prabhu, for stepping in. And the dear devotees, we thank you all for being here. And as usual, this time we are going to get ourselves unmuted and we chant powerful, sincere Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for the swift and a quick recovery of His Grace Mahatma Das Prabhu, our beloved spiritual mentor, please. So you may all unmute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Panchakalpa, Krishna, Krishna,
Vaishnava Vinde ki jai.
Jai.
All glories to His Grace Mahatma Das Prabhu ki jai.
Jai. All
All
glories
glories
to Acharya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki
jai.
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 Hare Krishna.
All glories